you loop the strap around your foot, you pull, and you grit your teeth. You do this every single day. And yet, an hour later, the backs of your legs feel exactly as stiff as they did before you started. We operate on a very basic mechanical assumption. If a muscle feels tight, we assume the physical fibers have become too short, and the logical solution to a short muscle is to physically pull it until it gets longer. But that sensation is lying to you. Your hamstrings are rarely short. In most cases, those fibers are actually exhausted, already over-lengthened, or neurologically panicked. Your nervous system acts as the body's emergency brake. When it detects that a joint or a muscle is moving into a range of motion it lacks the strength to control, it deliberately creates the sensation of stiffness to stop you from moving any further. Yanking on a panicked muscle doesn't address why the brain is hitting the brakes in the first place. Trying to force flexibility into a system that is actively protecting itself actually makes the underlying problem worse. Spend 8 hours a day in a chair, and the tissues at the front of your hips, the hip flexors, adapt to that compressed position. When you finally stand up, those tight hip flexors pull the front of your pelvis downward, tilting it forward. This diagram illustrates the mechanics of the upper leg. The hamstrings attach to the pelvis and run down the thigh to the knee. Think of them like a rubber band. As the pelvis tips forward, the back is dragged upward, pulling the band taut. Because of that pelvic tilt, your hamstrings are already stretched to their maximum capacity while you are standing perfectly still. When you bend over to touch your toes, you add even more distance. Your brain registers an imminent muscle tear and immediately locks the tissue down. Pushing through the pain of that toe touch isn't improving your flexibility. It is aggressively pulling on a tissue that is already stretched to its absolute structural limit. That tension can also originate right next door. Every time you walk, run, or stand up, your glute muscles are supposed to do the heavy lifting to propel your hips forward. But prolonged sitting causes those glutes to become underactive. They forget how to fire efficiently. Your body still needs to move, so it delegates that massive workload to the next available muscle group, the hamstrings. The hamstrings are not designed to handle that much force alone. To survive the constant overload, the brain ramps up the resting tension in the tissue to create artificial stability. That state of high alert feels exactly like stiffness. This diagram maps the sciatic nerve. It weaves out of the lower spine, travels straight through the glutes, and traces the exact same path as the hamstrings down the back of your leg. Nerves despise being stretched. If the sciatic nerve is bound up or irritated, trying to lengthen your leg actively agitates it. The brain detects the threat to the nerve and instantly restricts your mobility to protect it from further pulling. Chronic stiffness is a sophisticated security protocol. It is an alarm system warning you that the mechanical chain in your lower body is failing to provide adequate strength and stability. Regaining your range of motion requires abandoning the daily stretch routine. You have to shift your focus to correcting your pelvic alignment and building load tolerance. That starts by actively releasing the hip flexors at the front of the body. Removing that downward pull allows the pelvis to settle back into a neutral position, instantly taking the slack off the back of your legs. Next, the hamstrings need to learn how to handle force while they lengthen. Exercises like the Romanian deadlift train the muscle tissue to accept heavy loads eccentrically, building true physical capacity. Finally, you have to convince your nervous system that you are safe. Gentle nerve glides restore normal mobility to the sciatic pathway, while active core bracing provides the spinal stability the brain demands before it releases the emergency brake. You cannot force a muscle to relax by punishing it. You achieve genuine, lasting mobility by building a physical system that is strong enough to let its guard down.